right, Mike's on. Francesa on the Fan on this Football Friday. We'll have Tom Coughlin at 3, Troy Aikman a little later. All the picks, everything else on this Championship Friday. We promised we would first have a season ender with the head coach of the Jets, Rex Ryan, and he joins us now. Coach, welcome. How are you?
Oh, I've been better, Mike, but how you doing?
Good, thank you. Appreciate a couple of minutes. All right, the last 2 years you were getting ready for a game. Now you're home making changes. What happened?
Just, boy, I tell you, a lot of things happened. Obviously the main thing is, we came up short. There's no question about it. Disappointing beyond belief. I really thought that if we get in there that we could, we can do some damage, but we had to earn that right. We didn't earn that right. I look at myself as the, how we can improve. I look at the things that I can improve on, and I need to change some things, and I think we all need to take a hard look at each other. But with that being said, the main thing is we never got it done. We never earned the right to get in the playoffs, and that hurts. After coming up short 2 years in a row, in a championship game and all that, the pain was like ridiculous, because you're one step away. But the pain's much worse when you don't make the playoffs. I mean, and I can just tell you that.
LaDainian Tomlinson had a lot to say, Rex. I'm sure you have seen and heard what he said. But the real headlines were, one, that your locker room was toxic, and the relationship between your quarterback and Holmes was the worst he's ever seen in his career. How about those two things?
Well, yeah, there's actually a couple things. I have a great deal of respect for LT, and again, I was interested to see what he said and those things. There's some things that I disagree with. I think it was it was an isolated incident. I don't think it was pervasive throughout the locker room. It's not everybody in the locker room. I think we certainly had a couple of, guys, and it had a huge, negative impact on our football team. So there's no question about that. But I'll tell you, there's something else that I learned, with LT, and it's interesting. I talk about trying to improve myself and things like that. LT had another comment in there, and it was dealing with me, and talking about maybe there's things that I say, I say things that maybe motivate opponents,
right,
and things like that, and it was interesting because I bring up LT's thing because when he said that,
you believe that?
Well, when he said that, here was my deal. I try to get better every year, whether we lose and whatever or what. I don't care if we win the Super Bowl. I'm going to always try to get better. I reached out to Steve Young. He had made a couple of comments, and I called Steve Young, and he had some interesting comments about, when you look at my background, I'm a defensive coach, and I've been a defensive coach all my life. I've been around that side of the football. And to me, it works. Like, you can't argue, we can argue if I'm a good head coach or not. I know one thing. I want to be a great head coach. I want to be. Am I there yet? No, I'm absolutely not there yet. But I am willing to work to get there. But one thing it is, as a defensive coach, I don't think we can argue the fact that I was a pretty darn good defensive coach. But I've been around that type of environment. And he said, Rex, you're treating guys all the same. You're treating offensive players and defensive, and it's different. And LT's point was very similar. On the defensive side, if I say that, it's almost like you're going into a fight. I've always been, hey, you know what? I don't mind telling you I'm going to go whip your,
right,
like kick your butt or whatever. I'll tell you and then go do it. I think from an offense perspective sometimes, and I look at it mainly because the offensive guy's getting hit. The defensive guys are all like, yeah, because we're doing the hitting. But an offensive guy has to – they're the ones getting hit. And so when LT made that comment and you put Steve Young's comment to me on there, I thought it was really interesting that maybe – that I have to take a good hard look on, because I certainly don't want to put the, fuel the fire. What I try to do initially is put things on me. on my back. If it doesn't work, it comes down on me. It doesn't come down on players. I try to take pressure off of our players, but in actuality, maybe I was putting more pressure on our guys. So those are things that I look at as well.
Fair point. And I think there's something to that. So and it looks like you've acknowledged that. So I think that is a good point. A couple of things here. Let me get to the quarterback for a second because this is critical. Obviously, what you do is critical. What the quarterback does is critical. There's a game going on here, and let's see if we can cut through it. On one hand, everyone runs to say that the quarterback's not lazy. You said it. The owner says it. I'll take everybody's word. The part I don't understand is then why is everybody calling for a veteran guy to light a fire under him? Why do you have to light a fire under a guy who's given you everything he's got? So either I'm missing something, but the owner said it, LT said it, yeah, you need to bring a guy in to light a fire under him. Well, if you got a lot of fire under him, then something's wrong. Then something's not right. That maybe something is missing. What's the truth? Where is the truth?
Well, Mike, first off, I think, I always think competition is good regardless of the spot, whether you bring in, we brought in a kicker. Nick Novak's a good kicker. I think it made Nick Folk a better kicker. He won the job. I thought he was, was a better kicker.
But if you're getting but nobody challenges quarterbacks who are incumbents in this league. You got a number one guy.
Well,
he's your guy. You know that? I mean, he's your guy or he's not your guy. If he has to light a fire under him, something's missing.
I don't think he has to light a fire. I don't think we have to light a fire under him. I mean, Mark Sanchez is a motivated guy. And in fact, that the comment about being lazy is absolutely the furthest thing from the truth. There's nothing lazy about Mark Sanchez.
Then why do you need somebody breathing down his back, as your owner said?
Well, I just think that the competition would be good. And not taking anything away from Mark Brunell and Kevin O'Connell. It's just that, quite honestly, Brunell was there that, we still thought Mark could throw in things, but he's up there in age. I think we have to bring in a different look. I think our quarterback room will look different next year.
Right.
I don't think there's any doubt about it.
So you think your quarterback is giving you everything that he can give you? Is he is he doing everything he can do?
I don't think there's any doubt. This guy wants it in the worst way.
Okay.
And when I say he's the first player in the building, the last one to leave, that's the truth. Just the facts. That is it alone. This guy would do anything to win, and it kills him. I mean, absolutely kills him that we were not successful. And I think, and that's really our whole team is feels that way. That obviously. It's a terrible feeling. When I watch these playoff games, there's 4 teams left, and it's like, golly, it pains you beyond belief. And I know he's the same way. I drove down to our stadium and to watch the Giants are playing in a playoff game, and all that, and hey. And, I'm happy for them, but I just wanted to see our stadium, and it was in blue, and it drove me crazy, But I drove by there specifically to see it, and just to get that taste in my mouth like that. Next year we're going to be here, and I think that's the determination I have, and I know that's the determination, Mark Sanchez and a host of New York.
So all right, so work is not the issue. Then what happened to Sanchez this year? Why the backslide in performance? Team oriented. His problem, his loss of confidence, not the right coaching. What happened to Sanchez this year?
You know what? I think it's, I think it's easier to look at the team. It's hard to say, well, it's this individual. Maybe in baseball where you can get, statistics and a guy's batting average is what it is or whatever. But sometimes when you look at it, it's maybe harder. I think, when
so you think it's a team thing more than a player thing?
I absolutely do. I mean, there's some good things. Mark had, 32 touchdowns, 26 passing and 6 rushing touchdowns that he had. That's really positive. But there were obviously, turnovers.
Led the league in turnovers, led the league in fumbles.
Yeah, we've got to definitely address that. And fundamentals, everything, we're going to be, we have to get better in those areas. And I'm excited. I think that's, one of the reasons why Tony Sperano's here is that when I looked at it, the first thing we do is that, hey, everything's, they set an NFL record on fewest, the way they protect the football first and foremost, and then it's here's your throws. And I love the idea that, every receiver on the Dolphins, the starting receivers, even the tight end, they all averaged over 15 yards a catch, and they were also able to run the football. I think that's going to be interesting. The fact that you're coming to a team that has 3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen, I think that really helps. This is going to be exciting for me to see this. Now, I love Brian. I think Brian did a tremendous job here.
You just needed a change. You needed a change.
Fresh start.
Well, let's be honest.
So.
You are not a guy who You've been very generous. I've always said that. We're talking about Rex Ryan. You've been very generous to your assistants, much more than most head coaches. And I don't see you as a guy scapegoating your assistants. Was he a bad fit? Was it time for a change? Was he not the guy you originally wanted? And what now do you see why you needed a change? Why did Schottenheimer have to go? And what do you see that you want to bring in with Sperano?
Well, first off, I think, with Brian, it was a mutual thing. It was a mutual agreement. He wanted a fresh start,
and so did you, right?
Well, when you look at it, it was like I can understand it, and as much as I respect Brian and things, I'm excited about this fresh start. With Tony. When we interviewed Tony, when Brian was interviewing for the Jacksonville job, we interviewed Bill Callahan, we interviewed Tony Sperano, and when we were done with the interview, I was like, wow, if there's going to be a change, I really want this guy.
Why?
It just jumped out. It's like, I think it's easy to see. You see the it's East Coast guy to where it's we're going to run the football.
So you want toughness?
Action.
You want toughness?
There's no question I want that. I think that's something I said in my initial, press conference. I want an all-weather offense. I want that ground and pound mentality, and also that opens up the play-action game. I think the reads are clear for the quarterback. I also think that there's, I love the way we talk about protecting the football. I think there's, things that we'll do that I'm really excited about. And I think it really, not just for Mark, but for our offensive line, the outstanding offensive line we have, to be able to knock people off the ball, to be able to, and put receivers in position where they get the football. I mean, everybody in the world knows that the ball's going to Brandon Marshall, yet he still catches almost 90 passes. So,
did you do a bad job by not disciplining Holmes earlier in the season? When this festered, that's one thing that Tomlinson said. That's one thing. I don't like anonymous players, but that's one thing that was said anonymously, is that he should have been disciplined earlier in the season. Did you not nip that in the bud? Is that something you did wrong?
Well, I don't know if that's it. I know I did a lot of things
Should
wrong,
he have been disciplined? Well, let's just talk about Holmes for a second. Should Holmes have been disciplined differently or earlier?
Well, Mike, I think first off is I don't know if I knew the scope, and I've talked about the pulse of the team and things. I don't know if I knew the scope of the relationship and everything else had things gone. Because the one thing I always believe in, I think if there's one thing I do a great job of, I think it is developing team chemistry and building a team together. And yet here we go, like this happened. So maybe I made too much of an assumption that, hey, everything was fine, and really it came to a head that last game, obviously. And so clearly that's something that I've got, and I've talked about it, and I know what Woody said, that his comment about not necessarily agreeing with me that I had the pulse of the team. I appreciate that from Woody, because
also that he wants you to be more. He wants you to be more involved. He said too, in all facets of the team.
And I have to, and that's it. And you know what? This will be my 4th season as a head coach, and certainly, I don't know about other coaches, but I know I don't have all the answers. But I know one thing: I'm working on it, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to become, to get better. I think a mistake that I made, though, is I think that I listened to other people that I really admire and I respect, and that I got to pull myself away.
Are you talking about inside or outside the team?
No, maybe even outside.
Okay.
Sometimes inside, sometimes outside, but of really being this head coach.
You want to do it your own way, you're saying that?
Well, no, I'm going to listen. Believe me, there's things that I'll grow from without question. But I do have to be true to myself and things. But the other one is sometimes there might be 31 other head coaches in the